Hey, y'all, I am here with Jen. I met Jen at the Capitol, actually. We were testifying together on a bill that would greatly help currently incarcerated women. And actually, that bill that we testified on together, y'all, it's sitting on Governor Abbott's desk waiting for him to sign. So it was very effective. That was really exciting. But Jen has quite a story of her own, and I'm excited to let her tell it all. Jen, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks so much. I'm glad to be here. It's amazing to get to do all this, and the day and age we live in, we're able to do this. So I'm glad to, put it out there and raise awareness to what's going on in our state.
Yes, thank you for that. We are definitely like-minded in that. And that's the whole purpose of this channel, is just to kind of let people know that, hey, good people mess up sometimes. And also, lots of people in prison have a whole plethora of circumstances that place them there. It's not like they just woke up one morning and said, I think I'm going to go rob a bank. It's what's
Yeah.
So, Jen, tell me, where do you think that your story starts?
Story starts long, long, long ago. I was out of high school, and I had met a guy that I started dating. I was in beauty school. And he was into drugs and alcohol. Of course, I probably was into alcohol myself, anyways, but had never done drugs and didn't really know anything about them. I was really scared of them, but I really loved this guy so much. And well, I thought that I did at the time. I mean, how can you say you love somebody at 19? But it was love to me. He introduced me to drugs, long story short. And that was a long, hard road after that for me. I struggled with substance abuse from the age of 19 well into my 30s. And so as a result of that, I have been arrested multiple times for drug possession, drug related offenses. And so, I was unable to rent an apartment or obtain good employment really since the age of 19. It's unfortunate to go through it at such a young age. It's a hard road to go down, in and out of jails, in and out of rehabs, and then the stress that it put on my relationships with my family as well. And so my last incarceration was in 2013. I got convicted of a drug charge, and actually went to prison for a little while that time. And during my incarceration, prior to my incarceration, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, which was a direct result of my substance abuse. And during my incarceration, I was on medical chain quite a bit back and forth to Galveston as a result of that congestive heart failure. It was horrific to deal with that. It's hard to be in prison alone, just being in prison by itself, much less be sick and in prison. And so that's why I was advocating for those women that are sick in that bill that we were advocating on, because I know exactly how hard that it is on anyone that's overweight or sick or elderly, anybody, period. It's just difficult. But back to my story, that last incarceration, it lasted a little bit longer than I anticipated it to. They said I would make parole, but I did not. And the reasons that I did not make parole, were the same every time. And I really had no way to change what the reasons that they set me off were. I believe it was prior drug convictions or previous criminal history. I mean, what can I possibly do about that while I'm in prison? Although I'm taking a changes class, although I've asked to be put into a college course, I've put myself in a faith-based dorm. I've done things to better myself while I'm in there and make the most of my time and try to get home to my family quickly. The reasons they kept, denying me, of course, were things out of my control. So I finally made parole in 2016. At the very beginning of 2016, I came home, and I have been able to restore my relationships with my family. That was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And so anybody that comes home from prison and they're able to be reunited with their family, of course, what a great thing that is, because it's so hard to be separated from your children and your family and people that you love while you're incarcerated. But the barriers that I've faced, since coming home are challenging. And so I was able to obtain employment in a call center for 3 hours a day. I let them know that I was on parole, and they were skeptical, but it was a call center, and 3 hours a day, they gave me a chance. So I was able to work there while I was on parole. I finished parole there, and then I was given an opportunity to actually a family member blessed me with an opportunity to go to work in a law firm as a receptionist. And so I did that, and it was probably one of the biggest blessings that I have received, prior to coming home, because there's not very many opportunities like that for someone that has prior convictions like me. Even though my offenses are, drug related, they were not crimes of moral turpitude. They were not aggravated charges. They were not violent crimes at all. Just given that opportunity meant a lot to me, and I really appreciated it. And so I was a great employee for them. I've worked my way up from receptionist all the way to paralegal status in that firm. And that boss really believed in second chances. And so it was a big blessing for me to get in there and be able to prove myself a good employee, there every day on time, staying late if needed, answering emails and phone calls after hours, doing whatever needed to be done, because that's what I did, just doing the most for my employer. So grateful to have employment, meaningful, gainful employment, not a call center, if you will. Paralegal job really worked out for me very well. I've learned a lot. I have achieved a lot. I've started college at night to advance that career. But unfortunately, my husband changed jobs. And so we had to relocate from the place where my employment was. And so I'm currently unemployed again. And I've been job searching. I think I've put out probably 150 or 200 maybe applications on Indeed. And I get the email saying, unfortunately, and so-and-so employer has moved on with the process and your application was not selected. Boom. Or if I get the interview, they interview me, and I'm always very honest about my situation and letting them know, hey, before I waste any of your time, I want you to be aware of this, and here's what's going on, and this is what I've done. I'm in an AA program. I participate in it regularly. I have a sponsor. I've worked all of the steps. I have 10 years of continuous sobriety. I have 10 years without convicting a crime. I've reached a level of distance that I more than likely will never reoffend again. And the statistics are there. The statistics will show anybody that's willing to look at it, that people that come out of that situation and they don't reoffend 4 to 7 years, they're no more likely to commit a crime than some average Joe on the street. But we're still treated like second-class citizens. They brand cattle in Texas. They brand felons too. But it does follow us and haunt us. And so that's been a barrier for me and a challenge. And even though I'm honest with employers, my honesty, I will say I've encountered some pretty good people out there that have advocated for me to try to get me that second interview. And I get that second interview, but then I'm so nervous because I have this stigma and all of this negative thoughts and feelings about it. I'm just so self-conscious and worried about it. I think that shows in the interview. I don't have the confidence that I need, or maybe even the experience. I don't have a master's degree. I don't have a bachelor's degree. I'm a self-starter. And I explain all of that in the interviews as well, but I'm a good employee, and people like me don't get many chances to prove ourselves in the event that we are blessed with an opportunity to prove ourselves, that I would go above and beyond for that employer, there every day on time, do more than what is expected of me, learn and be the best employee that I possibly could. I'm just really struggling right now with that. I haven't quite found my next work home. Hopefully, I will soon. I've got a great skill set. I was managing an entire personal injury docket for my last employer. I've been doing that for a little more than 6 years, from start to finish, a personal injury docket. I mean, I don't have an education, but I can answer discovery. I can draft a petition. I can draft, mediation statements. I've got a good, strong skill set. I just need to find the right employer that believes in second chances and is willing to provide me that opportunity. I will say this, the fact that I was blessed with the opportunity to even work in a law firm, it made a big difference in my stability, in my ability to care for my family, provide for my family. And it made a big impact on me, I believe, being stable in society. And I know that if it made that much of a difference for me, that it could really make a lot of difference for other people as well, that are suffering the same things. There's millions of us in Texas and nationwide. It would open the economy back up if we were able to change the laws in Texas, where people like me, after we've reached a certain level, could seal our records. I mean, we could open up a job economy that would flourish the state of Texas.
You said so many incredible gems in there that I just wanted to see if I could just amplify that, because you were talking about your work ethic and as it relates to your past. And I think that that's fairly common. People that are out of prison or have a criminal background, have a substance abuse background, we've seen the bottom and we've worked for free or little to nothing if you're in other states, hard. We've worked hard. And now that we're getting pay and getting recognized, we really go the extra mile. And so I love that you pointed that out. I wanted to say at the beginning of your story, it kind of started with, there was this guy spending 10 years in a women's prison. So many women's story starts that way, that there was this guy. And oftentimes women get caught up in whatever. They follow their heart. We follow our heart. And sometimes we're not thinking straight. So can I ask if you have any advice for young ladies? You were 19 and in love, and there was this guy. What is your advice for someone that's in that situation right now?
Well, the best advice I could give them would be run. But, it's a different world today than we live in than when we were that age. The kids today are facing a lot more challenges than I did at that age. I have a stepdaughter that is around that age, and I worry about that so much. But she's so strong and so smart, and I'm so blessed by her. I try to give her the talk from time to time about boys, and she, I believe, has her own mindset. But I would, I always just encourage her to, talk to me. If something is going on or if anything, ever, that she always has me, and to please talk to me. There are a lot of hotlines out there that these kids can reach. They can talk to somebody if they don't feel like they can talk to their parents. There are people out there that do care and that will take the time to talk to them.
I think there's a lot of shame that comes with that particular disease, substance abuse disorder. And oftentimes it does start with a kind of a decision and you don't know that you're going to get in that deep. And you see other young people around you or your peers around you and they're handling it, and you think that maybe you can, but you don't know that you have that. So that whatever it is that just holds on to that. And I think that prevents a lot of people from seeking help early on, that could have been maybe prevented. What do you think the community could have done for you early on, before the criminal part came into play, when it was just you and you're kind of sinking into this addiction?
That's a great question. There was not a lot of areas or things, there wasn't as much out there for people like me at that time. I believe it was in the 90s. Drugs had really kind of just started to take over our country at that time. And they are pushed upon the young people. I mean, and it led me into a lifetime of heartache. I lived a really hard life because of it. I mean, there are many organizations and things for help the kids can reach out to. I participate in an AA program. I've testified my story. I've worked with other addicts and alcoholics, and you see them come in and they're so young, and they're not ready, and there's nothing you can do but plant the seed. And so I try to really plant the seed, and I give them the graphic details of what it's like to be in that lifestyle, of the impact that it had on my life, on my family, on my future. And so, just planting the seed is really all that I can do, and advocate for people like us and like them, that don't know, that have no clue. It starts off so innocently, and it can spiral out of control before your eyes, and you will never even realize that it's happening until it's too late, and you've dug this hole so deep and you don't know how to get out of it. And for me, I would get out of the hole, and then I would go back to the hole, because I didn't have the tools to stay out of the hole. I didn't have the tools to stay sober. There was a lot of seeds that had been planted. I never had the tools that I needed really to stay sober, even get sober. And so parole actually made me start going to AA groups.
Recovery comes in all kinds of different ways, and I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how that route goes, just because my story is a little different, right? But I do know that parole stipulated that I attend a number of classes, and there were lots that I thought, this is nothing to do with me, but I went in with an open mind, and I accepted what were, and I took the pieces that were for me, or even a piece that wasn't exactly my story or pertained directly to me. I took that knowledge and put it in another area of my life. It also gave me more understanding about the people around me and the people I had been incarcerated with. And it sounds like that's kind of what you did. It was a parole stipulation, and now here you are, well off of parole and still very much a part of that program.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I'll say, coming out of prison, what I witnessed in prison, it was so horrific. It was so overwhelming. It was so degrading that I knew then and there that I did not want to grow old in prison, because it's full of elderly women that are not okay. And the end result of breaking the law in Texas is going to be the penitentiary. And I didn't want to grow old in prison because of the atrocities that I witnessed, there with the elderly women, especially like I mentioned about the congestive heart failure and being on medical chains so many times, and witnessing the treatment, not just of offenders, of inmates, but of the elderly inmates, the disregard for their health conditions, the disregard for their ability to carry a red chain bag with all of their property in it while they're on a walker, the disregard for basic human things like female products and toilet paper. You know, when you are so hungry that you would eat Colgate because you missed the Johnny Sack on the medical chain. It's pretty horrific. It was traumatizing. It created a lot of PTSD within me. And it's trauma. It's trauma that I have kind of pushed down, and it's recently resurfaced. And I'm working another fourth step with my sponsor regarding that because upon my release, I guess I was on a pink cloud, if you will, and I hadn't really processed all of that. I just kind of pushed it in, and it's something about being treated in that manner. You just kind of get used to it and numb to it, if you will. I don't know. I mean, me being a nonviolent offender, I feel like there could be better rehabilitation or more suitable rehabilitation for drug addicts that are incarcerated. I mean, it's a substance abuse problem. It is untreated, probably ADD or ADHD or untreated depression or whatever, and learning to just self-medicate that. You know, there's got to be something better out there for people that are suffering with those types of issues. You know, we're already beat down from living in that type of environment and living addicted to drugs and alcohol.
It's interesting to me that we know as a society that oftentimes substance abuse stems from trauma. People self-medicate and try to deal with their past trauma, and then we have criminalized this disease and we incarcerate these folks and then put more trauma on them. And for sure, that is causing some of our high recidivism rates. For sure, it makes it hard for people with substance abuse disorder getting out of prison not to try to self-medicate. And I applaud you for handling it the right way, right? You're talking to your sponsor and working through that trauma instead of trying to handle it on your own. I also applaud you for speaking about it, because I think that there is such a stigma that this country places on people with criminal backgrounds that sometimes we get out and we're afraid to say, yes, I'm having PTSD symptoms, I'm experiencing this, because we don't even want to bring up the fact that we were in prison. You talked about your family, and I can imagine that you burnt a little bit of bridges or possibly lost some trust in that path with your criminal history and in and out of jail with your addiction. So I'm wondering how you rebuilt some of that.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking that. You know, it was, I had to show them, I had to prove myself to them. It was to that point that, you know, me telling them I'm going to change, I'm going to do better. I had cried wolf too many times. And I know that many addicts can probably relate to that scenario, because like I was talking about the hole we dig that hole so deep. Each time we go back down, it's deeper and deeper. And pretty soon there's nobody left at the top to pull us out of that hole. We're just up there yelling and nobody's going to come and help us anymore because they're just tired of it. But just getting up every day and continuing to do the right thing, working on myself, and the lived apology. The living apology is how I was able to mend those relationships. And just day by day, you know, they just come around and it's all come back, and everything's been restored for me in that aspect. Just a big, big blessing. You know, you spoke about recidivism a while ago, and, you know, people going back in and out because of drug addiction and trauma. The not being able to get employment for people like us, it creates recidivism. it creates an epidemic of people that are reoffending because they're not able to get employment. How are they able to care for their families? I guess they want us all to go be janitors or work, I don't know, at McDonald's, maybe if they would hire us. I don't know. I haven't tried, but there are good jobs out there. There are people that we deserve a chance. We're humans. We've made mistakes. We've paid the consequences for those mistakes. And believe me, those consequences are severe. People might think it's jail. It's not horrible until they go and they experience firsthand what we have. And we know exactly how traumatizing it is to be incarcerated in the state of Texas with no air conditioning in metal buildings that are 140 degrees in the summer, or on what they call the hose squad in a field, chopping up a field for literally no reason for 8 hours a day, being yelled at. It's horrible. And, the recidivism, there are better ways to address these problems that are going on within our state, and for our people. We're all people. We're all humans. It's insane to me that we're branded and it follows us. We can't escape it. No matter what good we do for society and ourselves and our family and how much we've changed, and no matter what level of distance we've reached, it still haunts us. And it is embarrassing. To tell employers on an interview, listen, I want to let you know, hey, I'm a felon and here's what happened and here's what I'm doing. And the judgment that's passed, people really, it's a stigma. I don't know what can be done about the stigma, but we can certainly, hopefully, open the lawmakers' eyes somewhat to the issues that are going on, and that there is a better way to move forward. This is 2023.
I think you made such a good point about everything, about the stigma, and how we do want to definitely open up not only the lawmakers' eyes, but people in general. I think that if everybody kind of thought about the worst thing they've ever done in their life and how embarrassing it would be for them, if that was just like a label on their chest and everybody knew it, that's what it feels like to walk around with a felony background when you've changed. So how do we break that? So I feel like breaking society stigma is doing exactly like you and I are doing. It's conversations like these. It's working in an environment, and when you're getting accolades, people knowing, oh wow, she got, even if it's employee of the month at McDonald's, or it's at your law firm, it's people knowing, oh, she has a criminal background, but look at her go. You're having some housing issues as well due to your felony background. Can we talk about that?
Yes, we certainly can. I've had housing issues, like I said, since I was in my teens, I guess 19, 20 years old, unable to rent an apartment. Of course, I've put in applications for apartments and paid the application fees, which are $50, $75 a piece. And I always get denied because of drug convictions. And so, like I said, my husband recently changed jobs. So we sold the home that we had purchased and relocated, and we were unable to rent an apartment. So we purchased an RV, because it is much easier to rent a spot for your RV than it is to rent an apartment. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm in my little RV kitchen here in the back. Yeah, we live in RV parks.
Does your husband have a felony background?
No. As a matter of fact, my husband has never been in trouble. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He never has. He's affected by this as well. And not only is he affected, but his children are affected because he's married to me by this, So
I often thought about that ripple effect with my incarceration, how far that spread with my family, and then beyond. And this kind of situation affects our entire communities, for sure.
yes.
You talked about some of the atrocities that you witnessed in prison. And you also talked about working on the host squad. So a lot of states don't have the host squad. That's kind of a Southern state thing. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I myself have never been on the host squad, but I have witnessed women that were on the host squad and the field bosses, and how they come in just so tired and dirty and hot, sunburned, and there's limited water, and I never really understood why they had that position as a job in TDC. I don't think it serves a purpose. If it does, I'm unaware. I just, maybe I don't, but I've never been on the host squad. I went into prison last time with the heart condition, and they really would not let me work. They did give me one job. I was on the Riverside unit. They gave me a job in the laundry folding clothes, and that was not horrible, of course, but yeah, I don't really know much about the host squad other than it's there, and it's like the worst job you could possibly get in prison, and everybody fears it and they're afraid of it. For me, I know that the host squad bosses, or I'm sorry, field bosses, that's probably a gross way to call them out. The field bosses, they remind me a lot of like a SWAT team or a task force, if you will. And so people like me that may have trauma from that, it just reminds me of them.
That's a great comparison, because I definitely have that image of the field bosses coming in the dorm and tearing up people's cubicles, and loud and abrasive, aggressive. And they were a gang. I mean, they were definitely working together, and they had each other's backs as far as anything immoral or against policy that they were doing. So it was kind of a scary situation. I'll just touch very quickly on how host squad or field squad. So for those of you that are watching that you might not know, the workers on the host squad are performing duties very similar to plantation work, and that's actually when the host squad started. So in 1913, when they abolished slavery, they said no more slavery unless someone has been convicted of a crime. So then what they did is they freed the slaves and wrote all of these ridiculously silly, hard to follow laws if you were a Black person in the South. And they arrested a lot of the slaves that had been free, and they put them back to work, sometimes on the very plantation that they were freed from. So it's that. But here we are now in 2023, and these Southern states just really can't let go of that culture, because we're not farming enough to feed us. We're not farming enough to even make a profit. Here in Texas, there's been recent studies showing that they are losing money, but they just can't let go of that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. You were able to reconnect with your family, and you know what it is getting out of prison and also leaving that lifestyle behind, because not only were you released from prison, you left an entire lifestyle. Every person in prison that I know has good intentions when they're getting out. So we're spilling all of this stuff and all of our hopes and our goals, and it sounds great. And sometimes if we have lost people's trust, our families are like, whoa, wait a minute. And so I'm just wondering if you can kind of touch on that. And then if you have advice for families of people getting out of prison that have a criminal background, that have a substance abuse background, how can they support them?
Let me just say that support is everything. It means so much just to know that somebody cares about you. And I would encourage family members not to give up, because you never know. My mother labeled me the prodigal child, I guess, this last time, because I came back, like the prodigal child. And we do recover. People do come home and they do recover. It's possible. There's many of us that find a new way to live. Some of the tools that I was given, of course, was the AA meetings and getting really plugged in to a program of people that understand the disease of addiction, that have helped me work through the disease of addiction. And in this 12 steps, those steps really would be not just good for an addict or an alcoholic, but any person on the planet that worked those 12 steps, it would change their life. I would encourage family members to promote that. If you have a family member that is struggling with alcoholism or addiction, and Al-Anon will give you tools to work on yourself and help them also. That's a great outlet. Getting your family member plugged into AA or NA meetings, like I said, even just the support of maybe helping them, find a job, the moral support, because I promise you, people that come out of prison, we do have the best intentions. I know I did. And you get a lot of momentum. You're ready to go out there and just do right and do the most and do the best. And then the world can kind of beat you down. And so the family is so important, because the family should, that backbone to just support that person coming home. They know they have someone and they can make it another day and just keep on going because of that strength that the family is providing to them. Is so important. We all struggle with things in our lives, and we never really know what a person is dealing with, what they've gone through. We can overcome it, and just keep going. So I know that the support of my family and my new friends and my AA group, it's everything. I wouldn't be here today, doing this right now with you, Marcy, if I didn't have that support. And so many incarcerated women coming out, they don't have that support. There are places, if you don't have family members, there are places, advocacy groups, like us, reach out to us. We're here. We want to help. That's why we are doing, what we are doing, because it matters and people matter.
Thank you, Jen. And I'll go ahead and talk about the advocacy group that you and I are both a part of, and that is Linus Justice Impacted Women's Alliance. We are in Texas. Our membership is made up 100% of ladies that are currently incarcerated and ladies that are previously incarcerated in our state. And we are a big support network. So if you are in Texas and you are system impacted, just Google us up. Our website's there. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and all of the good stuff. And we would love to talk to you for sure. So thanks for that, Jen, because that was a good opportunity. And there are other groups in our state and throughout the country as well. You guys can message me if you're curious. And if I have a connection, I'll put you there. And if not, I'll make some emails or text messages to the people that I know, and we might be able to help you there. And that same kind of theme where we're talking about how family members offer so much support. How about people getting out of prison that are facing these same challenges that you faced with housing and trying to do the right thing? What is your advice for them?
Baby steps, because you can't do it all at once. It's not going to happen in a day, but just keep moving forward and don't give up. It's worth it. And we can overcome the challenges we can overcome so much. If we put our best foot forward, and at the end of the day, we may not have made it far. If it's a centimeter, we made it a centimeter. We didn't give up. So we just keep going, because ultimately the end result, well, for people like me we're drug addicts, the end result is death. It's death or institutions or jails. Those are the three outcomes. And so we don't have to live in addiction. There is another way. Believe me, I have found that way by the grace of God. I have found that way, and many other people have found that way also. And there is hope for the hopeless, for the people that don't know, for the people that are scared, for the young people that don't know. Any age, it wouldn't matter. I've experienced hopeless, and I know what it's like to have no hope at all, and not know if I'm going to be able to eat or where I'll sleep. There's another life. There is another life, and we don't have to waste the life we've been given, going back to jails or prison, or institutions. or ultimately die. Baby steps.
Thank you for that. I love that, to give yourself grace and not feel like everything has to be accomplished all at once. I like to tell people, give yourself the same grace that you would offer to other people. Sometimes if we're looking from the outside and we see someone in a situation just getting out of prison, we have all of this grace for them, but we're just so hard on ourselves. Jen, you have given us so much insight, and I have really enjoyed talking with you. I'm wondering if there's anything that you had in mind to discuss when you knew we were going to meet today that we didn't have the opportunity to.
I think we've touched on just about everything and even more than I anticipated. And it really was good. We got some things out there that, we normally don't talk about. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, thanks for sharing your story. And I think that there's going to be people watching this that are going to take some of the things that you've said to heart. And I think that you're changing the world with sharing your story, and keep moving forward. I appreciate you so much, and we will see you soon.
Oh my gosh, Marcy, thank you. And you as well. You are just so amazing. Your TikToks are everything. And I just love you so much. Thank you.